Слава Господу, братья, сестры. Значит, мы являемся свидетелями страшных событий, которые проходят на земле, откуда мы выехали. И Господь никого из нас не оставляет равнодушными к этому, потому что это горе, это слезы. Было время, когда Господь сильной рукой 30 лет назад с лишним просто нас вывел из той страны, из той дьявольской системы и разрушил эту всю систему. И мы приехали в эту страну, и никто из нас под мостами не спал, правда? Потому что Бог позаботился наперед, дал программы такие, которые вот welfare был для нас, food stamps были для нас, медикал был для нас, классы были, все. То есть Господь наперед побеспокоился, чтобы 2,5 миллиона христиан разных деноминаций, вероисповеданий были приняты в Америке, и мы стали на ноги. Но времена поменялись, друзья, и мы видим, что сейчас тоже едут уже не сотни, не тысячи, а десятки тысяч. Может быть, и эта страна опять увидит миллионы опять беженцев. И задается вопрос, да, семья какая-то знакомая, могут принять одну семью, другую семью, а если приедет 100 семей, а если приедет больше? То есть каждый из нас на индивидуальном уровне это будет просто очень тяжело, чтобы в наши домы принять. Хотя народ отзывается, и мы принимаем. Но к нам обратились американцы, или лучше сказать, мы обратились к американцам, к Refugee центру, к government, local, our government. И когда начали этот topic поднимать, они говорят, federal programs are behind. Federal programs behind. Федеральные программы, они запаздывают с этим, а народ едет. И они говорят, что мы не знаем, когда это все наладится, когда это все оформится, но, говорит, вы, славяне, вы возьмите это дело делать. Они говорят, у нас есть ресурсы, у нас есть люди, у нас есть знания, но это ваши люди. Возьмитесь вы, и мы все вам поможем, это все направим. И когда мы столкнулись с этим вопросом, мы увидели, что очень много информации, которая ходит, кто-то что-то услышал по документам, а оно не работает, кому-то что-то передал. И среди нашего общества славянского здесь мы пробуем, we getting frustrated, мы тратим время, оно не получается. Мы везем туда семью, а оно отказ, то. И тогда мы как-то решили, давайте мы к одному сойдемся. Если американцы предлагают помощь нам, то ли консультации, то ли с хаузингом помощь, потому что вы знаете, у нас с жильем в Idaho сейчас большая проблема, катастрофа, то ли с транспортом, то ли с другими какими-то ресурсами, люди, американцы, готовы это все, но они говорят, дайте нам знать, как помочь. И поэтому Инна подготовила небольшую такую презентацию PowerPoint, для того, чтобы, друзья, вы сказали в своих церквах, обсказали эту ситуацию, чтобы мы как бы не делали ошибок и не передавали непроверенную, неточную информацию друг другу, которая просто-напросто вредить нам будет. Так, чтобы мы подошли к одному и правильно давали направление этим семьям, этим людям, которые принимают, оформляют, приезжают, чтобы все мы были в одном направлении, работали. Пожалуйста, Инна. Хорошо. Видео. Как я сказал, на правительственном кругу, на Nazarene Community 50 церквей отозвались, Refugee Center, новости постоянно говорят, чем помочь, скажите. И просто буквально сколько уже news coverage прошло?
Уже
four news coverage, мы хотим просто один показать, news coverage, channel 2. Пожалуйста.
So far, 6 families from Ukraine have made their way to Idaho under the Idaho Alliance for Ukrainian Refugees and Immigrants, and they expect close to 60 families to relocate here over the next 6 months. Nearly 4.6 million Ukrainian refugees have fled Ukraine, leaving behind everything they once knew. As numbers grow, more places are stepping up to help, and that includes Idaho. Most refugees that come to Idaho are under humanitarian parole.
It's a temporary window to let them get out of a humanitarian crisis and to be in the United States. And usually for up to a year, they have time then to pursue the next steps.
The hope is after a year, they'll be able to go home. If they have no home left after a year, they can apply to stay permanently.
For some people, that looks like an immigration program. For others, it might look like applying for asylum. And once granted asylum, a process that can take a few years, but once granted asylum, then people would be eligible for refugee resettlement benefits at that point.
In the meantime, organizations that primarily work on resettlement are also pitching in.
We decided to partner with them in helping connect them with resources, network with them, with our supporters. We have people coming to us all the time, employers or residents who have an extra room in their house or want to give, saying, how can we help?
So far, 6 Ukrainian refugees are here in Idaho, with many more expected.
Earlier this week, I thought it would be 2 to 3 families a week for the next 6 months, and now we're realizing that it's probably going to be more than that.
The Idaho-Ukraine Alliance has many ways you can help Ukrainian refugees. That information can be found on our website at idahonews.com. Live in studio, Michaela Ellett, CBS 2 News.
То есть, in other words, друзья, alliance is, значит, aligning Idaho resources to the people who need these resources. Вот, да. Alliance, Idaho Alliance, значит, aligning resources, которые available, которые они предлагают, все граждане, жители Айдахо, включая христиан, церкви, to the people who come into Idaho, которым нужны эти ресурсы, refugees, или эмигранты наши, украинцы.
Спасибо, Володь. Я буду говорить по-английски, потому что для меня немножко легче, и я хочу предоставить правильную информацию, и потом мы попросим, чтобы кто-то перевел. So what we would like to do, go ahead and next slide, please. We would like to propose a strategic plan for how we're going to approach the different kinds of needs that we've seen. And what we'd like to do is propose to our community to tackle this effort with a 5-pronged approach. So we're going to have 5 strategic teams that are specifically earmarked to address every single need that these families have coming in. So the very first one that we're seeing is documentation. We have many families that have already started that process. Some have been successful, some have gotten through other roadblocks, and so we want to create one team who is overseeing the documentation process and assign a leader to that team who has volunteers under them. That team is meeting regularly, and they're also, we're going to unpack each one of these components in just a second. The next piece, we'd like to create a team of people to address housing. There are 2 elements of housing that we have to look at, and that's temporary, short-term, and then we've got to talk about the long-term, because we do have a lot of people who are going to stay here longer than a year. We need a team to handle donations. The amount of resources that Idaho is willing to give to this effort is really unbelievable. We ask, and the Lord provides. He moves the hearts of people that have resources, that have worked in these areas, and people are very excited to give. So we need a team to be able to navigate these resources so that they get to the right place. Education. They need to learn how to speak English. Not only the adults, but also the children. And so we have resources coming in from there. And then transportation, which transportation for our community should be an easy one because we have a lot of mechanics. We have people with auto shops. So that one should be an easy one for us to figure out. So this is our proposal to organize a team for each category, assign a leader, and then this team, the team leaders would get together once a week to talk about what areas of overlap, share information, and make sure that the correct information gets to the people in our community. Next slide, please. So in just a second, the format I'm going to talk about each one of the categories, and then I'm also going to share what we know up to date as of today. And then I'm going to ask that people hold their questions to the very end, because somewhere in the presentation I might give you the answer before. And then if you want to write down questions that you want to discuss, that'd be fine. Next slide, please. All right, so first team, documentation team. We'd like to task this team to meet these objectives, specifically navigating the processes for documentation, appointments, processes, connecting them to Department of Health and Welfare, Social Security, Department of State, Citizenship, Immigration Services, and the DMV. All of that is coming into play, and if you don't know where you're going for what, we've already seen people get frustrated. The next part of this objective is to get accurate information to our people. As Vlad mentioned, sometimes someone is watching a YouTube video that applied to a process in Washington. They tried it here and it didn't work because our state has different laws. So we want to navigate our state laws and get the right information to people. Next slide, please. All right, here's what we know about documentation so far. We've been approached by many people, volunteers, even those people that are not necessarily connected to a church, that have said to us, I speak English, Russian, Ukrainian. I am an interpreter for the hospitals. I am an interpreter for the court systems. These people have very, very good language skills, and we want to put them to use in a very effective way. We have people that read, write, and speak all languages very fluently, and so we need to make sure that the information that we're giving out is going out in multiple languages, not just in English. We also have been approached by the IRC. The IRC is an international rescue committee. They are all over the world, and they have a hub here in Idaho. They reached out to us and said, we will be on this committee. If you guys create this team, we will be there, and we will give you information. The challenge that we're facing right now is they typically don't serve people on humanitarian parole. But as soon as we get them to work authorization status, those individuals are going to go through the processes of filing for asylum or get to through an immigration program. And that's where the IRC will become very, very helpful to us. And so one thing that we'd like to ask, if you know people that are starting the documentation process, please start with one person and have that person follow that family or that individual all the way to the very end. What was happening with some of the first families that we were seeing, someone would come in and say, oh, I will help you at Department of Health and Welfare, and then somebody else takes them to Social Security, and then they're denied, and then we don't know why it's denied because they didn't go to the first appointment with them, and they don't know which forms they filled out. And these people are coming in, they don't know the names of these things. And so if everyone has different pieces of the puzzle, it's really hard to help the person without creating a lot of frustration.
And I would like to add a little thing as well. In cases like this, one person starts helping one family, and then another one comes in, and they think that another person would do a better job, so they start going through the same paperwork, and all of a sudden they get denials and they mail because the applications are already going through. So it creates a mess in the federal system, government system, because something is already done, and the refugees don't even know what kind of papers were done. And that's what we're facing right now. And the people from these organizations are reaching out to us and say, look, it would be better if one person take a family from A to Z.
Thank you. The other part is we have some people, for example, Lilia is here today, and she's been working with a lot of families in the documentation process, but she's one person. She's very knowledgeable. She's done this before in other situations. And so yes, we have 9 cases that we came across this week, but what happens when we have 39 cases? She's not going to be able to handle them alone. And so to have someone like that to say, no, we've got a team of people. If you need help, we can assign a case manager that will take you from A to Z. Or if you want to be that case manager for someone you're sponsoring, we'll make sure that the right information gets to you. And one other thing that we ask people when you go to these appointments, take everything. All the paperwork, because sometimes they need some kind of form that you filled out somewhere, you don't remember what it's called. Have those families start a folder and keep everything in that folder.
And don't throw anything from mail. Even if it's junk mail, ask them to hold it and let someone who's knowledgeable to double check it. Because some of the important mails got thrown in the trash.
Next slide, please. Okay, so if you'd like, you can take a picture of this. I'm not going to go into this in detail. This is the process that we are currently following that is working for people, starting at the Department of Health and Welfare in Boise. The people in that office are a lot more knowledgeable. You're going to apply for Medicaid and food stamps. Food stamps will get denied. The reason food stamps are getting denied is because food stamps is a federal program. Our state is one of the only states with state Medicaid, which is why Medicaid is getting approved. So be prepared for that. After Medicaid is approved, that's where you can go to the Social Security office. Again, go to the one in Boise, because those people are a little bit more knowledgeable. And then when that's done, you can fill out paperwork for work authorization. There are some glitches that we're trying to iron out. We don't know how that's going to happen. We're waiting for folks to get work authorization. I did hear through the grapevine that we had one that received it. I have to verify that. I don't know how true it is, but this is the process that we're following. After they receive work authorization, the Department of Labor in Idaho has a lot of resources. They can receive cash assistance for driving around looking for a job. They can receive money for training. If they want to become a welder, they can get their classes in English fully paid for. So there are lots of government programs out there that are working, and they become available after you get through step number 4.
And I would like to also add, why apply for food stamps if you're going to be denied, right? That's kind of like a dumb question. Well, the point is, in 2 months, you will be eligible. And in 2 months, they will look at and see your application that it was submitted 2 months before, and they will take it and will compensate you moving forward. So that's why at that point you apply for all this assistance. И я думаю, стоит, наверное, по-русски сказать немножко, да, эту информацию перевести, потому что она очень важная информация. Значит, Department of Health and Welfare, значит, Welfare, как мы называем, в Бойзе. В Бойзе они немножко уже продвинули этот вопрос, они немножко больше информации знают, потому что мы знаем, что в Меридионе, в Колдвилле они не знают, отправляют людей ни с чем. Но в Бойзе они уже знают. Привести людей в Health and Welfare в Бойзе и заполнить на Medicaid и на Food Stamps аппликацию. Когда вы заполняете эти формы, вам приходит по почте бумага. С этой бумагой дальше должны эту бумагу держать, идти на Social Security. Social Security без этой бумаги не дадут. Не примут аппликацию Social Security. Поэтому для того, чтобы начался процесс оформления на Social Security, а мы понимаем, Social Security – это разрешение на работу. После этого, после того, как Social Security, заполняется форма для того, чтобы Work Authorization. Эту форму, когда вы посетили Social Security, можно заполнить онлайн. И онлайн, когда вы проходите по форме I-765, Work Authorization, вы выходите на то, что вам надо заплатить $410. И кто не знает дальше процесса, он платит эти $410. Но есть exceptions. Exception – это форма, которая называется I-912, которая позволяет тебе не платить, если ты по этому статусу приезжаешь в эту страну, не платить эти $410. И дальше единственная проблема на веб-сайте, над которым работают, когда вы заполняете эту форму, нету страны Украины. Все страны есть, а страны Украины нет. Поэтому сейчас стучим в эту дверь и говорим добавить эту страну. Пожалуйста, вопрос.
Да, we're going to take questions at the very end, and then we'll also have maybe Lilia talk a little bit about some of the experiences that she's had. So, but we'll address that at the end when we open for questions. Thank you, Vlad. Next slide, please. All right, the other ones will go a little bit faster. So the next team that we propose to bring up is the housing team. And so we have to address housing from two different angles. The first one being short-term housing, the next one being long-term housing. Next slide, please. So here are things that we know. Right now in the queue, we have about 40 families here that have said, I will take someone and I have room. Now, these families across the valley, based on their application, some people have a full home. Other people have a basement with a private entrance, with their own kitchen, all different facilities. Other people are offering 2 bedrooms and a bathroom. However, if we're going to send families into host families, those families need to be vetted. We can't just send someone into a stranger's home not knowing who they are. And so it's very important for us to have a process where we're vetting those families, we're doing background checks, we're arranging introductions, and then gathering necessary food or furniture and items that they may need. So just because they're opening their home, that might not mean that they have all the furniture that that family might need. So for short term, that's what we need to figure out, is how we vet those families and then do appropriate pairings. The next part is we have a lead. Actually, as of yesterday, there may be a small housing complex in Nampa that might be available. We're going to look into that this week, and we'll have more information. As far as the stable and permanent housing, that's going to be very difficult to figure out how we're going to do that. Not only is rent really hard to find right now in the valley, that's the obvious thing that everyone knows, but even if we're able to find rent and afford it, when you start calling, they're asking for their credit score. They're asking for rental history. They're asking for, what's the third one? There's 3 things that they... not background checks. Well, there's 3 things that they ask, and basically they won't even show you the apartment unless those things are present. Oh, income, proof of income. And so these families don't have those 3 things, and they're really struggling with rent. So we have to figure out how to get past the typical property management companies. If you guys have resources, if you know people that know things in this area, we need to get those individuals connected into this team. We also began reaching out to the city developers and city officials about funding, such as HUD funding, and then possibly start laying the groundwork for a development, a larger scale development to become available for our community. Anything that I'm missing on that one? Okay, next slide, please. All right, the third team that we're proposing is this transportation team. And the objective for this team is to attain vehicles for incoming families as soon as possible. Pretty simple and straightforward. Next slide, please. Here's what we know. As I mentioned at the top, this should be really easy for us. We have families that need vehicles right now. If you know of a vehicle, let's get it into their hands. We have people that can't get to the grocery store, they can't get to church, they're staying with someone that maybe goes to a church of a different denomination and they would prefer to go visit somewhere else. They're asking their host families to run to the gas station to get toothpaste or just small things, and that can add up. So we need to get them in a place where they can move. We have volunteers from the Christian Brothers Automotive program. They have joined our efforts as well. They said that cars that are being donated to them currently, when they are fixed, they will be preparing them for our people. And so what we'd like to do is, how do we align the Slavic resources? As I mentioned, many of you guys, probably in this room even, have different automotive shops and work in this area, and so we'd like to get a team together to figure out how to get vehicles into their hands so that when a family gets here, we can get them a car immediately.
And considering the amount of our kids and the families, we see probably more needs for immediate needs for minivans or something that can accommodate transporting the entire family. Да. Эти вещи, друзья, мы просто так организовать, потому что я знаю, в свое время мы все через акшены проходили, потом мы как-то уже отошли от этого, да. Может быть, кто знает, что может, эти контакты, которые еще остались, может быть, даже нам придется и реализовать эти ресурсы с нашими местными механиками. Но уже с американцами тоже работаем.
Next slide, please. All right, committee number 4. This one's really exciting because we have some really great power players on this one. So the objective for this team is to equip the Ukrainian families and individuals with language skills to quickly integrate them into Idaho, getting them ready for school and work. Next slide, please. So we need to take a two-pronged approach for this. We need to handle the adult situation and then also the kids situation. So our proposal here is to begin adult language classes. We contacted the director of the ABE program at CWI right now, and he is getting his teachers together right now to start classes as soon as we're ready. And so classes that we need are language skills, so adult basic education, driver's education, computer literacy, and we're looking at a start date in maybe late May, beginning of June. On the other side, we'd like to propose having a children's summer immersion program. Summer immersion programs are programs where there's 2 languages in that program at once, and so we would be hiring, or not hiring, we would have volunteers of teachers. We already have 4 volunteers that are ready to put this camp together. There is a school principal from West Ada. She's retiring, and we just actually on Monday are signing up a couple of students for school, and she said, let me know what else I can do to help, and I said, actually, I have a great job for you. So we have a school principal who's ready to put this program together, and so we'll have more information on start dates, how many hours a day that's going to be. We're going to connect the child nutrition program from the State Department of Education, so they'll also be able to eat lunch when they come on the days that they come to school. So we'd like to have a team that's working on these 2 issues so that we can roll it out for these families in the summertime. Next slide, please. All right, and this is the last team that we'd propose, and it is the organization of donations and volunteers. As Walter and his team learned over the last couple of weeks, that it's quite the lift. When you have 100 people saying, hey, sign me up, I want to volunteer, you have to organize all of that. And then you have to make sure that the donations are getting from point A to point B. And with larger donations, we have to schedule pickups and drop-offs. All of that is important. And so there are basically, we need to figure out how that's going to happen. A couple of things that I want to mention. We do have donations coming in for the immediate needs. So as families are coming, what we saw with the first few families is that they immediately took them shopping, which is really, really nice. And I know that people are doing it out of the goodness of their hearts, but that's not the right answer. And I say that because we have tons of stuff being donated. Let's go through that and give them the stuff that they need, and then actually use the money for things that are going to matter. Let's use the money on documentation. Let's save the money for housing. Тряпки
можно... There's lots of clothing in Idaho, and we
Просто
shouldn't waste our
обидно,
money like
друзья,
that.
взяли людей, потратили $300, пришли к нам, а у нас то же самое. Те же самые вещи были. Просто, смотришь, деньги можно было использовать в лучшем направлении.
Next slide, please. I think I have some more information on that here. Okay, so here it is. So clothing closet. Our clothing closet is full. We collected clothes for 3 hours today. That's it. It's completely stocked. We've got car seats, strollers, beds, furniture, clothes for every size. It's ready to go. So families that are coming in, let's schedule an appointment. Let's get them through. They can get all that stuff. They can take as much as they need. If you do end up taking them shopping, here's what you should focus on. Get them socks, underwear, and shoes their size if they have an unusual size foot. That's a thing because, shoes like for women's, size 7 and 8, very common. If you have a very small foot or a larger foot, that's really hard to find shoes your size. Furniture, we also have lots of furniture, plus Consigned Furniture in Meridian has said that they will give all furniture when they have a place. So they schedule an appointment. This week we had a lady, she actually rented a house for a family. They're coming from Bucha in a couple of weeks, and she said, the house isn't completely empty, I need furniture. So we scheduled an appointment. She's going there on Monday. She's going to point to everything that she wants, and they will deliver it to the house and set it up. So furniture is taken care of. And then food pantries, we have multiple churches that are getting ready to open their food pantries to us so that they have resources until food stamps become available.
Yes, and instead of going directly and shopping for food, let's go to these churches like Lakeview, Church of Nazarene, a basement pantry. Also other Nazarene churches, as a matter of fact, я сегодня говорил, открывает еще одна церковь. Пожалуйста, приходите, выбирайте все, что вам надо, свежие groceries, все. Прежде чем идти в магазин, в Винко или в Walmart или куда-то, пускай... Давайте мы подождем до конца presentation.
So that's why we need a team to tackle this issue, so that they create a document. That document is created in English and Russian, and it's sent out to all the individuals. So, because the resources are there, it's just a matter of how do we get the resources to the right people, right? Or the information out. Next slide, please. I think that's actually where, okay. We got space donated to us. So this is really exciting. This is actually a picture of Hampton Hall. It's next to NNU in Nampa. And so they are using their basement, but their entire upper floor is being donated space to us. It's got office space, it's got conference room space, and it's got tons of room to expand into a clothing closet. So it's a 10,000 square foot building, and it sounds like about half of it is going to be for us to use. We're going there on Monday to check it out and talk about how we want to organize it. So that's where we're going to move everything. We've been doing things at the 5 Mile Nazarene Church in the back right now, but it's not enough space, so we are going to move to a larger location. So next slide, please. Okay, we're going to open it up for questions here. I know that there are lots of questions, lots of ideas. So Vlad, I'm going to hand it off to you to facilitate the discussion.
I may not be. Может быть, еще Лиля выйдет, и какие-то вопросы будут. Я думаю, больше вопросов сейчас по документации будет. Пожалуйста.
Do you guys want to start with documentation? Okay. Okay. Oh, okay. Yes. So here's what we'll do. This is being recorded, and we will have someone translate this when it's sent out. So we will have a version in Ukrainian and a version in English, so that the information is out.
Okay, so first, you were talking about teams. The teams need to be organized. Do you have anybody for each team, somebody that's kind of working with it, or this all needs to be organized?
So that's what we're starting. So 2 of the teams, we've started collecting people that are appropriate for those teams. We have a database, so on our website, people can sign up to volunteer, and so we can use those teams, but we also need people from our own communities and churches. And later on, if there are people that you know in your churches that have expertise in one of these 5 areas, let's get them on one of those teams. Okay, so because those teams we need to be able to plug in the people that are coming from the English community, we need to be able to plug in our people as well. So the teams are not organized, but that's what we would like to do if you guys feel like the structure will meet the needs of our community.
We do have people already in some of the teams, but teams are not structured to the way kind of like this is a manager and this is a team. No, we have some volunteers who said, sign me up for this team. For example, for documentation, we have somebody from our community, we have мы имеем американцев, мы имеем наших, которые уже documentation. Другая есть education. Уже есть американцы желающие, уже наши есть желающие. То есть уже люди начинают заполнять эти места. Допустим, housing, transportation. Да, это нужны. В каждой группе должен быть лидер и volunteers или помощники, или координаторы, которые все это делают.
Yeah, it's really important that everybody knows what their part is. And that is, I think, where a lot of the confusion is coming in, is that everybody is trying to do everything all at once and realizing that it's, first of all, not effective. They don't know what their role is, and they don't know, they want to do something, but they're not sure how to do it most appropriately.
Organization is really important, I do agree. Are there all the volunteers, is it all the leaders or teams going to be volunteer-based? Yes?
Yes, this entire effort is all volunteer-based.
Okay.
The vetting process. So, very, very important question. Потому что люди едут разные. Уже мы знакомились и с верующими, и с неверующими. And all walks of life, Jewish people, people who are not Christian, all of that. We've already seen it. And so what we do is when a family signs up on our website and says, I want to schedule an appointment, we invite them for an appointment, we meet them, we check their documentation, because that's important too, because I don't want to start them on a humanitarian parole process if their status is different. And that has happened as well. And so what we try to do is during that interview, we ask, what is your story? Can you please tell us more? And then we identify immediate needs and long-term needs. And so we're trying to get better at making sure we're collecting the right kind of information so that we're giving the right kind of help. But it's true, we're going to see all kinds of people. It's not just Christian people that are coming here, and so we have to understand that this is bigger than just the Christian Slavic community here.
So after you guys spread these roles, like you're doing this, you're doing that, so we're not going to be responsible for like actually meeting up people and, you know, like talking to them and figuring things out, because I wasn't sure. I'm glad you're doing this, because I wasn't sure what I'm doing, because we're kind of all over the place and buying groceries, driving to these people's houses, but I have no idea their story, and I don't feel comfortable asking them.
Yes.
And then it turns out it could be some, you know, other people that...
Знаете, друзья, получается так, что мы по новостям тоже объявляют, что borders on the 24th of April will be open to everybody, even those with criminal backgrounds, or like a lot of people been released out of prisons. Another concern on the news is about trafficking, human trafficking. So all these things, we also asking resources and help from State Department to identify during our interviews while we're talking to people, so they have capabilities and resources to identify, определять таких людей или определять определенные вопросы, ну, помогать в этом. Конечно, все мы можем не ухватить, но есть люди, которые, как говорится, let the professionals do their jobs, да? Особенно вот процесс, к примеру, vetting, это когда ты приходишь в семью и хочешь проверить, готова эта семья или не готова принять. Нам тоже так предложили американцы. У вас должен быть кто-то в этой группе полицейский, который знает, на что обратить внимание, какие вопросы спросить, который что, он верующий человек полицейский, он доброволец, он не в форме идет, но он может дать информацию такую, которую мы не заметим, понимаете, друзья? Поэтому эти ресурсы сводить и направлять в правильное русло очень важно.
У вас, ви говорили, що у вас до кого звертатися, якщо треба допомога вещі, і до кого звертатися, якщо сьогодні хтось хоче вещі взяти, чи одежа і тому подобне.
So right now, best place to get access is going to our website. It's idaho4ukraine.org. And I don't know if you can pull up the website, Slavic, idaho4ukraine.org. And there's on the main page, there's a button that says, I just arrived, I need help. And you put in your name, your phone number, your email address. We will get back to people within 24 hours, or 48 hours is what we have listed. If you want help sooner, call us. And my phone number will be on this website. We will have an official line for this set up here shortly as well. Yeah.
Idaho letter number 4 or FOR?
FOR, idaho4ukraine.org.
I had a question. We were talking about transportation. The refugees are coming in. Are they allowed to drive? Are they allowed to get American licenses? Do you know information about that?
So the information that I've gotten, and I need to verify this, I've sent this question to the IRC. My understanding is that they can drive for 3 months if they had a driver's license in Ukraine. That's not true?
That is true.
Lily's saying no, and Lily's the expert. She's done this a lot. So let's have that discussion. Go here. Look, can we get her microphone?
So я звонила to DMV, and я спрашивала, уточняла. Они говорят, есть люди, которые уже они встречали, которые ездят, но это illegal. Это не разрешено в Idaho. So, то есть мне сказали in Boise DMV. I also called NEPA, они не знали информацию там, девчонка. So, может, вам какой-то не по знанию, по своему education сказали, but that's as far as I know from Boise. Они сказали, it's not an option.
I can track that question down for sure because I know the director of transportation in Idaho, so I will go directly to the director and find out. Thank you, Lily.
Еще какие-то вопросы будут по бумажкам.
So one thing that I'd like to share, if you guys are okay with it, because Lily has had the most experience with the documentation, we would like to have her to be the lead and then give her a team of volunteers that she can work with, if there's no opposition to that thought.
Я работала с многими людьми, и то, что вы светили в начале с documentation, вот это все step by step, да, оно смотрится smooth, но у многих реально проблемы даже from first step. То есть, да, вы можете пойти сами, но возникает очень много проблем. Именно у всех разные карточки, все приезжают с паспортами, и только вот A-card, некоторые имеют both, и некоторые приезжают, у детей есть номера, у родителей нет. Есть семьи, которые приезжают with disabilities, я не знаю по-русски как. Даже есть семьи, которые приезжают, что хотела сказать, Ну, короче, разные ситуации есть, даже на first stage, это health and welfare. So, есть отказы от health and welfare, потому что многие рабочие не обученные, и они не знают, как ввести этот процесс в компьютер. То есть в каждой семье есть свои какие-то нюансы, да, которые опять, если вот у меня, надеюсь, группа будет, да, помощников, они будут все помогать. Если у них какие-то вопросы возникают, они звонят мне, и я попытаюсь понять, судя по этой ситуации, как пойти дальше. Но это с health and welfare. Social security там нам чуть-чуть сложнее, то есть у меня еще никого ни отказ не был, ни одной семьи. Возникали проблемы с рабочими, с social security. Некоторые ты должен принести доказательства, почему ты хочешь social security. То есть мне таких вопросов не было. Я пришла и прямо говорю, вот эти документы тебе нужны, чтобы пройти, мне дали social security, so you have no other option. So, говорят некоторые, родителям дадим, а детям нет. Еще типа primary reason. Даже есть семьи, которые не знающий процесс, пытаются получить social security, и как-то запутанно все у них идет, они берут denial letter from social security, едут какой-то, в DMV едут, берут ID card. То есть для чего ID стоит card $15, я всем говорю, it's not necessary, это waste of your time and gas. Basically, ID cards нужны тому, кто, например, работает у русских, и им платят через чек, и они хотят раскешить чек. So that's the only option, который я могу вспомнить, который они могут поехать и сделать ID card. Again, you don't have to waste money на $15 ID cards, можно уже driver license получить after Social Security.
To get a driver license, do you need to first get a social security number before you get that?
Да, я звонила to DMV, они мне дали все, что нужно для driver license, у меня все записано. То кому надо помощь, я им скажу, какие, but yes, Social Security is one of them.
Last question, if I may. Дети сейчас, right now it's going to be summer, so no school. Are refugee children allowed to go to public schools? And I don't know if we got that far yet, but any information on that?
The answer is yes. They can go to public school, and Monday, we're taking the first family to get their kids registered, and so they'll be going to that school until the remainder of the year. Yes, and they can even register without a social security card.
So what documentation do the kid needs to go to school? Вопрос дети и школа. Какие документы нужно, чтобы детям идти в школу?
We haven't do so. First case is going to be on Monday.
Понятно.
We'll get back to you.
Понятно.
On that. Yep.
Слушай, вопрос. Как тебя зовут снова? Лиля? Можно твою информацию, чтобы даже с нашей церкви обратились к тебе с информацией, и чтобы ты помогла нашим? Потому что у нас есть люди, что уже работают над этим процессом, но не с нуля. То если ты можешь помочь, можешь дать свою информацию? It's on the website.
So yes, we will, as soon as the teams are organized, we will have that information on the website, because Lily's not going to be able to do all the families, because in 3 weeks we're going to have 40 families here. And so what we want to do is we want to have Lily with a team of 6 or 7 case managers, that if she can't get to you, because what's going to happen is they're going to work on the cases, and only the most critical ones will go up to her to deal with. And so we need to equip her so that she's not stretched thin, because again, this is a volunteer effort from all of us.
Understand. Can you guys put up, do you have maybe like a step-by-step information on a website so people can use it now before the team gets organized? This is a good information. It'd be nice to have it out there right now.
It is up there now.
Is it?
Slavic, if you could go to click on home, and then there is a in the top right-hand corner. Click on home, and then click on resources for Ukrainians, and then scroll down to what's next. So here's schedule an appointment. What's next? And here's humanitarian parole. So click on that arrow. There's the step-by-step. Down further, we have information about if you know someone who's in Europe and they need a place to go. And then there's also if you know someone who needs to get help getting out of Ukraine. And then this video, many of you guys saw it, that is the video by Leo, I can't remember his last name, but he's worked at the border in Tijuana getting people across.
Perfect, thank you.
У меня даже сегодня было много семей, которые говорят, начни со мной процесс, чтобы все было гладко. Да, я могу, только я не могу, то есть себя на всех разделить. Поэтому у нас вот это будет группа. То есть мне звонят, окей, говорю, понедельник или, basically понедельник мы будем знать, кто куда пойдет с кем. То есть ко мне будут уже идти те, у кого отказы пойдут, и я потом просмотрю, как они, на чем остановились, и могу сама physically поехать с ними.
I have a question. Can you tell us right now a little bit, since there is some of us here that already are working on this, like me, myself, in what situations are they getting denied, and why? How were you able to get the Social Security coming from welfare, let's say, and I couldn't, and I got a denial? So kind of just wanted to know what was the reason for that.
То есть, в общем, ответа нету одинаково для всех. У всех своя ситуация, то есть некоторые не принесли not enough documents, некоторым просто захотели, отказали. Есть там 3 рабочих, которые not really nice, а одна из них не сильно понимает и вводит систему неправильно. Есть человек, который просто она отказывает, just because. So, basically, потом уже я иду туда physically, они меня там уже знают, so I have no issues. Я иду, говорю, this is the documents you have to have in order for me to have Social Security, and there's no other way you can deny me because I've been working with so many people already. So.
Okay, so what's the documents, like a passport? What else do we need for
Это
that?
for Social Security, you have to have вот этот гран passport with your parole number, and then письмо от Health and Welfare, письмо вот это that you got approved for Medicaid, именно адрес, чтобы был там, поэтому мы просим не выбрасывать никакие бумажки, чтобы там адрес был, имя этого человека. It's one of your identity. Basically, you got Medicaid, yours means something in U.S. So you use that identification towards Social Security, and it should work perfectly
Pretty much,
fine.
that's what I had. I had all of those documents with them from Medicaid and everything, and they 2 different people denied me already. I don't know why.
And then I go physically there. So.
In Boise. I went to Boise twice,
'cause-
and both of them, and I had already from Medicaid, they already got their Medicaid approved. I have their Medicaid numbers already, and all this kind of stuff, and I
И у
went to
вас
them.
письмо было или verbally они denied?
I have, I have an actual verbal denial, verbal письмо denial from Social Security.
Они обычно пишут by mail denial, и там внизу написано lack of document. So basically, если ты все правильно с самого beginning сделал, then it's just the person how он не
Social
хочет.
Security told me denial for no work authorization.
Но у меня были такие ситуации, yes, it's not necessarily true. Они могут сказать, что хочешь.
So I do not need to get work authorization to get
No,
a
you
Social Security.
don't have to. You don't have to. I mean, you can start.
But-
You can start at any time with этот I-forms, but you don't have to. У меня никогда не было никаких проблем. So, у меня встречались, and I said, no, it's
Did
not true.
anybody get
This is
a-
enough for you to get me Social Security number. So,
Okay, but do they say under, because a lot of Social Securities, I used to work in a company, where we had a lot of people, and they would come with Social Security saying Social Security number, but says not authorized to work at the bottom of the Social Security number later on. So that's good. Actually, a lot of these people can get these kind of social securities coming in their mail with saying not authorized. And then when they get authorizations for work, they're going to have to maybe go get it replaced, or kind of it's going to be a little bit an issue too.
Но это очень редкие случаи, которые связаны с рабочими, не со мной. So far, у меня все семьи, которые со мной с самого начала, все прошли really smooth, без проблем. So,
How about any of those families get any work authorization already?
No,
or
no, мы делаем after Social Security.
After
So,
Social
да.
So you're still waiting on the work authorization right now?
Ну, то есть мы все будем делать, вот эту всю группу. Next stage is work
Authorization.
Да.
Uh-huh.
Я with that делаю driver license and other stuff.
So from this discussion, everybody getting Social Security without work authorization, yes?
Yeah.
And then you will work on work authorization later.
Да. So far, мне никогда не было проблем, чтобы они требовали какие-то еще numbers. So, они меня встречают, привет, я говорю, you'll see me soon again.
So I understand, but so the Social Security shows up, you get Social Security,
Да.
but you still have to get work
Да,
authorization afterwards.
Да, ну то есть
Okay.
мы так делаем. You can get it in any time. Но мы так вот выбрали такой процесс, чтобы было все гладко и fast. I mean, basically у меня, то есть если кто-то реально спешит, не знаю почему. Если семьи, я хочу вот сейчас. Вчера приехал ночью, я хочу. I mean, если ты в welfare поедешь в 8 часов утра, они тебе by 4 o'clock, like by 2 o'clock дадут все номера. I ask them, can you email me? They'll email me. И я в тот самый день получу Social Security. И, то есть, basically, it's real to do вот эти все три вещи in one day. But просто it's hard because it's hard on me.
Друзья, у нас вопросов может быть много быть, и мы можем здесь долго находиться. Мы всего попросили брата Владимира на 1 час, а уже мы немножко больше задержались. Давайте эти вопросы по поводу документации мы уже оставим, непосредственно контактировать Лилию и ее группу. Пожалуйста, let's move on.
So, question about the teams that you're trying to organize. How many people are you looking for? What kind of qualifications? Is this something you want us to present to the church tomorrow, to our congregation and hopefully other congregations, to say we need this many people that know something about education, this many people that know something about this? Do you have those kind of numbers, or is there qualifications that you're looking for? What should we relay to our congregations?
It's a great question. So that is exactly why we're here today.
Right.
And we need our people to be connected in the right places so that we're not all stretched thin and that we're working smarter rather than harder. And so I would say present it to your congregations. Let them know that if you guys are all comfortable with this direction forward, that this is how we're going to tackle it. And if you have people that are experts in those areas, when I say experts, I mean, I'm talking about people that are capable of doing this on a systemic level, because we're not planning for 10 families. We're probably planning for 100 families. And so we need to be able to say, oh, you need a car? I'm going to send you to this person, and he will get you a car. And so that I'm not wondering, did I send that person to the right place or not? Oh, you need help with housing? Let me connect you with this person. We'll find you a host family within 48 hours. And so we need a way that it's systemic, it's fast. If you guys know people who, like, for example, Julia has this resource with the Lions Club. Yes, let's plug them in. We also have a lot of resources, like, for example, we met with the superintendent of the assistant superintendent of all the Nazarene churches, the regional superintendent. They're ready to plug in 50 churches. 50, like, that's a lot. We're talking about thousands of people that are ready to bring their talents, their time, and their treasure. And we need to be able to say, okay, this is what you can bring, and this is exactly the team you're going to work with, and this is exactly what we're doing so that it can get done. And then, as that's happening, the information's also getting back to our Slavic people.
What's your expectation for people to donate? 10 hours a week, 5 hours a week, 20 hours a week?
That's an excellent question. So it's going to depend on the team. right? So with a team like the documentation team, they're going to be really busy probably at the beginning, as that's like the first thing. And so be prepared for at least one 1-hour meeting for the management team to get together, so the managers of every team to debrief, hey, this is what my team's doing, this is what my team's doing. And then the other volunteers, it's really just going to depend on how many families we're getting every week. It might be 10 hours, it might be 20 hours. Right now we're dedicating 3 evenings a week and a Saturday. That's our current.
I would say in your churches you can say if people can dedicate 3-4 hours a week, that's going to be fantastic. That's going to be awesome. 3-4 hours a week.
If they're
Thank
capable
you.
of doing more, we'll take it. Can you actually go through, there's a slide on that towards the end after the question slide. Okay, yeah, let's talk about etiquette really quick, and then we'll wrap up with that. So this is very, very important because the work that is happening here is very high profile. And what I mean by high profile, as you guys know, it's all over the news. I mean, we have government agencies calling us, government officials. I was at a meeting at work, and my counterpart, he's a bureau chief for the education employment services at Department of Labor. He stopped me and said, I want to just talk to you really quick. I was a refugee. My parents left Cuba because they were anti-communist. My father was in jail for 14 years. I came here when I was 6 years old. I used to work for IRC in San Diego. I want to get you connected. Tell me what you need. Whatever questions you need run down, I will get them for you. And so the kinds of connections that we're getting, they're people who are very knowledgeable, and it's very high profile. Okay, so you guys understand that. I ask that we please respect the incoming families. In our community, we do have a little bit of a gossip problem. That's the truth. And that kind of stuff needs to not happen. And so if you're working or volunteering with a family, a lot of them have been through a lot, and it's not fair for their laundry to be aired on a level that, oh, did you know I went over here, and guess what I found out about this family, and oh, would you believe? We can't do that out of respect for them. Because this is our reputation on the line, and the English-speaking community is looking at this and saying, how are we organized? And are we respectful about our interactions with bringing in new people?
Друзья, Инна пробует дипломатично сказать, я прямо скажу, наш народ очень часто горячий бывает. И если что-то у нас не получается, мы пробуем это, знаете, напором взять или... Но мы среди этого народа живем, которые уже прожили много лет, мы понимаем, что в офисы приходят, не принимают бумаги, то ли этот клерк новый или не знает, и мы начинаем в скандалы вступать, словопрение, что-то такое. Такие моменты, пожалуйста, давайте нашим людям в наших церквах или с кем мы работаем скажем, подождите, потому что они тоже проходят этот новый процесс, они тоже очень много изучают, они тоже многого чего не знают, и поэтому мы со своей стороны будем проявлять уважение, потому что в этих вопросах заинтересованы люди, как сказать, знаете, выше, чем мы даже, и они хотят нам помочь, и поэтому, чтобы, как сказать, один Apple, не напортил этих вещей всех, мы... Понимаете, да? То есть все это новое, все эти шаги первые, и знаете, встречаются разные моменты. Мы еще будем разных семей видеть. Я, когда помню, я приехал в эту страну, мне было 17 лет, я самый первый язык ухватил, знаете, я вот со школы еще иду, уже минивэн стоит, полный микроавтобус эмигрантов, и мне вот так вот сэндвич просто в руки дают, и давай, быстрей, портфель хватают на ходу, поехал. И едешь с людьми, переводишь в welfare или в больнице, везде. Такая жизнь была, 1,5 года у меня, знаете, пока я учился 11 класс, 12 класс. И людей всяких я видел. которые и муж с женой ссорятся в машине, что-то у них такое, что дети такие бывают. Просто-напросто мы будем терпеливы, потому что люди через многого прошли. Люди прошли через военные стрессы, понимаете? Мы еще этого не знаем, мы это не прошли, через что люди прошли. Я просто-напросто был даже, смотрел такой момент, вот по телевидению показывали как-то в Польше. Эта женщина, ей пробуют помочь, она кричит, она истерику такой закатила, пока главный этот поляк подошел, увидел, посмотрел, взял, обнял ее, и она заплакала. Что случилось? Он спрашивает. Сына убили. Понимаете, только дошло ньюс. А у ней срыв. И все не так вокруг идет. То есть мы можем встречаться с такими моментами, которые мы не знаем, но это не должно как-то, знаете, по нашему народу сразу пойти. Мы должны иметь понимание, сострадание, потому что, друзья, мы служим Богу. Мы никто. Мы рабы, которые должны сделать дело. Кто-то когда-то сделал для нас. Господь свидетельствовал, что мы будем принимать народ, мы не знали, как это будет, но вот сейчас оно получается на наших глазах. Поэтому будем с терпением, состраданием и с пониманием и к тем, кто нам помогает, и кому мы помогаем, будем проявлять свет в этом отношении.
And even with information, especially people who are going to be in the documentation team, people who are filling out housing applications, we're going to come across confidential information. And sharing that information is, well, at most jobs, it's illegal to tell other people those kinds of things. And so let's be mindful of that and just behave ourselves appropriately like children of Christ in that area. And then the last part is, as Vlad mentioned, the respect for public services. The government programs are not in place yet, and we have to understand that. And so we have to be patient. And so if you get like a denial, you have some place to go. And you know that there is a person who is working on it that you can go to, you can ask that question, and you'll get right information. And if it still doesn't work, you have a person that will go there and advocate with you. Let's do Lala. I think we've got just one more slide. Yep, so here's my phone number is on there. Vlad will need to put your phone number, but we will have an actual line open for our organization. So think about this in your churches. People that have three things: time, talent, and treasure. Again, time, talent, and treasure. So time, people who have flexibility in their schedules to help with heavy lifting. Many of our wives are stay-at-home moms, and they have some time. Let's leverage that. Maybe there's a talent that we have. And that's, I mean, like between Vlad and I work for the state government. I have a lot of connections, not only here in the Treasure Valley. Like, for example, CWI, I personally work with those directors on a regular basis. So for me to pick up the phone and say, hey, Jack, I need you to organize a language program, it's a piece of cake. Whereas for somebody else, it may be a little bit more difficult. So our talent is helping on that strategic level because that's something that we do professionally. So what talents do you have? What businesses do you have in your church that can be plugged into one of those teams? And then treasure. Treasure can look lots of different ways, not just money. We need money. We're starting to collect money to donate specifically for these families. But maybe there's other treasures that you know of that could be helpful that we're not thinking of. And like, for example, Pastor Ben, right? He connected us with this district pastor, and all of a sudden we have 50 churches ready to help. That's a treasure. And we might not think of those kinds of treasures, but they're really important to plug into this. So if they want to if they're interested in being in one of those teams, or they want to add a resource to one of those teams, have them give us a call. And then we will see how we can organize these efforts so that the process from A to Z is easy for the Ukrainians. Okay, I think that's all that we have. Vlad, do you want to?
Ну, спасибо большое. Мы очень благодарны пастору Владимиру.
So let's say at the end, after they do get work authorizations and stuff like that, we should have a team actually to get some of these people to go to work.
So that's already in place.
That's
Yeah.
already in place.
So the Department of Labor has all of those resources. So if they're looking for jobs, we get them to a caseworker at Department of Labor. They get plugged into employment services, and they will even reimburse their gas. They'll give them cash cards. They'll help them with groceries while they're looking for jobs.
Looking for jobs, but I'm talking about between us, a lot of Slavic peoples, we can take a lot of, let's say, men, women to different things, so it doesn't even have to be with the labor department. That's what I'm talking about, kind of.
Absolutely. That's a wonderful idea.
У нас есть на веб-сайте link I have a job, and you can post or you can put your phone number and the employee you're looking for with specific skills. You need a welder, you put looking for welder phone number on our website.